GT Countdown. Top 10 Worst Blockbusters.
Month after month, sales figures prove the best games aren't always the best-selling games. Sometimes the most unthinkable atrocities blaze past the competition, resting on a big movie or franchise, reinforcing the notion that developers can lazily create a game and still reap benefits. For us to consider a game a blockbuster, it must have sold at least 1 million copies worldwide. There were plenty of less than favorable options to choose from in this exclusive club, but the following 10 releases have us questioning the power of the video game review.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Jar Jar Binks, Orky Day.
Star Wars: The Phantom Menace.
You may think that watching The Phantom Menace is a nightmare all on its own, but at least the movie ends after a few hours. The game adaptation of Episode 1 takes fleeting, dismissible moments from the film, like meeting Jar Jar,
Hello, Daily Jedi.
and turns them into nap-inducing expanses of bland, buggy design. We're not surprised it sold as well as it did, and it does have a lot of voiceover for a PS1 game.
Go, Annie!
But half the time you're trudging through each planet's pixeled surface, you can't even tell what you're looking at. Despite its impressive sales, we never got an Episode 2 game for PS1,
I'm so relieved.
showing that LucasArts at least used to place quality over sales.
Number 9. Kinect Sports: Joyride Adventures.
Though just about everyone has thrown their hat into the casual arena at this point, it's clear from the apparent software success of the Kinect that the motion craze was far from over in 2010. Surprisingly enough, Microsoft's trifecta of launch period mini-game fests all pulled in a cool million, if not more, in sales, bringing us such hits as River Rush and Space Pop. And hey, let's not forget about Kinect Joyride. We pondered putting the Kinect camera on this list on its own, but then we realized that there are at least a couple games worth owning. These three, however, have managed to pull the wool over a lot of people's eyes.
Oh, now sadly, that's a foul.
Number 8. Frogger.
We've got nothing against Frogger. We actually have the same great memories of getting flattened and devoured playing the arcade classic that we're certain many of you do. But when you consider just how unremarkable a remake the 1997 version of Frogger is, it becomes truly baffling how it managed to outsell so many of the PlayStation-era greats, including such titles as Resident Evil 2 and Final Fantasy Tactics. Yeah, we get it, nostalgia is a powerful force, but anyone who bought Frogger back in the late 90s, in lieu of more deserving games, is at least partially responsible for what we call the Just Dance phenomenon. If you're a guilty party, we hope you're proud of yourself.
Number 7. Wii Music.
Wii Music hasn't been the success Nintendo expected, but it's still sold far more than it deserves, racking up over 1 million units in the US alone. Despite lip service to improvisation, the glorified noisemaker doesn't give you any real control over which notes you're playing, simply triggering outdated samples based on the timing of simple motions. The song selection is characterized by the likes of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and the Bridal March, and the racket made by joke instruments like the dog, cheerleader, and black belt will make any parent regret buying this for their kids. It's the epitome of the Wii craze gone bad.
Number 6. Pac-Man.
As one of the first games in the history of the industry to take pre-orders, many players waited months for Atari's interpretation of the arcade classic to finally be available at home. What everyone got is one of the biggest travesties in video gamedom. Nowhere even close to the real thing. Pac-Man is incapable of orienting his mouth up or down. The ghosts are so transparent they're difficult to see, and the sound effects alone are enough to send parents to the customer service line for a refund. Back in the day before magazines and websites, you had to trust developers knew what they were doing. Pac-Man for the Atari 2600 blew that trust to smithereens.
Number 5. Enter the Matrix.
Back when the original Matrix movie was released, it single-handedly sold DVD players, and many competitors claim that it's the sole reason the PlayStation 2 is a success out of the gate. There was no movie franchise bigger than The Matrix at the time, and this spilled over into the video games, where millions of fans blindly followed with their cash. Featuring none of the key players from the films, repetitive gameplay, and tons of bugs, this game is probably still convincing publishers today that they can release an awful game tied to a big franchise and make even bigger money.
Past experience can never prove the future.
Number 4.
Tony, how bad is this? I mean, really?
Iron Man 2.
Aside from a few notable exceptions, adapting a big screen flick into a video game never seems to end well. Sega is one of the worst offenders with more than its fair share of mishaps over the past few years, with its various takes on the Marvel Universe. The original Iron Man ranks as one of the worst reviewed games here at GT, but it's a masterpiece when compared to its sequel. The developers promised to address the issues that plagued the original, but Iron Man 2 is a train wreck with terrible controls, crippling bugs, and boring missions that fail to capture the excitement of being a superhero. We laugh at how bad Iron Man 2 turned out, but in the end, it's Sega that's laughing all the way to the bank, with an ill-deserved million seller.
Gold stars for everyone.
Number 3. Hey You, Pikachu.
Who would have thought that having your own iconic yellow Pokemon sidekick could be so disappointing? With no direct control of the electric rodents, players have to speak into the included microphone accessory, giving specific directions for activities such as fishing or eating fruit. This makes progressing in the game an impossible feat, since the voice recognition system usually doesn't work properly. Having to spend several minutes telling Pikachu to eat an apple will test the patience of any Pokemon fan. Whether it's due to technological limitations or pure insubordination from the cute and cuddly creature, Hey You Pikachu frustrates more than it fascinates.
Number 2. E.T., the Extraterrestrial.
Spielberg's early 80s cinematic opus has a dark stain. Amid the marketing craze of lunchboxes and Reese's Pieces, Atari acquired the rights and rushed out an E.T. game in time for Christmas. Underdeveloped and overproduced, E.T. became the turd in the punch bowl under many a Christmas tree. E.T. stuck his neck out with this one, with baffling gameplay and horrid controls. People didn't phone home, they called Atari with lots of New Year's returns, leading to millions of copies of the game infamously discarded in a landfill in New Mexico. It almost single-handedly destroyed the Atari 2600 as a platform, and there are few games that sold big and provided disappointment to match.
Number 1. Sonic franchise.
Freeze! What do you think you're doing? Get that hedgehog!
Sure, the most recent installment goes back to the Blue Hedgehog's glory days, but when we started deliberating for this list, we realized that several of the top 5 picks were all Sonic games. Rather than have one franchise dominate the list, we decided to place the Sonic franchise on its well-deserved perch as the worst video game blockbuster of all time. 2006's Sonic the Hedgehog, where Sonic gets romantic with a human, absolutely takes the cake, but Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Adventure 2, and the never-ending Olympic face-off with Mario all represent games that do not deserve the cash they've generated. Apparently, Sonic's speed is truly blinding because he's managed to get fans to spend good money on terrible games time after time.